Okay, picture this. How could missing just one single monthly payment end up costing a longtime homeowner their entire affordable fire insurance policy?
Yeah, honestly, it sounds completely wrong.
Right. Not just unfair, maybe even illegal,
Yeah.
but it's a terrifying reality that's actually unfolding in high-risk zones across California,
hmm
like right now.
And this deep dive, it's really necessary because the very foundation of owning a home, being able to insure your biggest asset, it's being completely redefined.
It really is.
It's not just about whether you paid your bill anymore. It's about this really intense, volatile mix of personal finance and, well, community responsibility, especially when it comes to wildfire risk.
So our mission today is to cut through some of that panic and, figure out the concrete steps communities actually need to take. Steps that aren't about politics.
Exactly.
The steps they can take teamed up with the city, the county, state resources,
hmm
all aimed at keeping insurance available and hopefully minimizing fire losses if the worst happens.
And we've got sources detailing a specific, pretty alarming local insurance crisis happening right now, plus documents that lay out a collaborative framework, a certified one designed to actually tackle this.
Okay, but let's get this core truth out right up front. This is critical.
Yes, fire prevention, fire loss mitigation. It's not a political debate. It's definitely not some kind of football game where you just blame the other team or the refs or the regulator in this case.
Now,
It's a nonpartisan civic activity. It's about checklists. It's about getting things done together.
we call this the mosquito analogy, and
Mhm.
honestly, it's kind of the key theme for this whole deep dive. Think about it. You, the listener, you could be the most careful homeowner ever, right?
Mhm.
Constantly checking your roof, clearing brush, trimming trees. But if you're the only one in your neighborhood dumping the rainwater out of that old tire swing to stop mosquitoes,
Right, if everyone else just lets their puddles sit.
you're still going to get bitten. And getting affordable fire insurance, keeping it needs that exact same community-wide, checklist-driven approach.
Yeah.
Individual effort alone. It's failing. Okay, let's unpack this.
We should probably start with the urgent stakes. There's a really powerful case study from the Tuscany Hill neighborhood that just lays it all bare, puts a crisis right into focus.
It really does put the stakes into perspective. Our sources detail this individual resident, okay, get this, a veteran, owned their home since 2002, and crucially, a customer of one of America's biggest insurance companies for almost 40 years.
40 years, that's loyalty.
Huge loyalty. And this longtime client was recently canceled after missing one single monthly payment.
And the insurance company, one of these giants that spends millions on advertising loyalty and, being part of the community,
Yeah.
they flat out refused to reinstate the policy. And the reason they gave, it's shocking, increased risk of loss of files in California.
Wait. Loss of files. Not increased risk to the house, from actual fire or not having enough defensible space, but risk to the company's files. What did the sources say that corporate jargon even means?
Well, what's fascinating and kind of chilling is how the sources interpreted that. They basically saw it as code.
Code for what?
Code for, look, we are pulling back hard from writing new policies in areas we think are too risky now based on our models. And frankly, we're using any technical loophole we can find, like one missed payment, to just clean out our portfolio of that risk.
So it suggests they're kind of systematically abandoning the market, but dressing it up as just like administrative rules.
Exactly, masquerading as compliance.
Wow. So that homeowner, bam, suddenly uninsured for fire risk. They were forced into this desperate search for new coverage, right?
Desperate is the word. And when they looked around, tried to get fire coverage from other companies, they found that only sort of non-reputable firms were even writing new policies in the area. It left them with basically one grim last resort. That last option is what people sometimes call CL fire insurance, but technically it's the state's high-risk pool, the California Fair Plan. And it's often much more expensive and offers less coverage.
So this whole story, this anecdote, it just highlights this brutal new reality. Getting affordable coverage, keeping it, it's now tied to collective action, quantifiable risk mitigation by the entire neighborhood.
That's the key. Insurers aren't just looking at your individual property anymore. They're looking at the whole community's risk profile.
Which means all the expensive dedicated stuff a single homeowner does, like, really extensive tree trimming, getting a new fire-resistant roof, maybe comprehensive inspections.
All good things, necessary things.
Right, but it's just not enough on its own anymore to lower the neighborhood's overall risk profile in the eyes of these big risk-averse insurance companies. If the whole community sort of fails the fire safety checklist, then everyone suffers.
Individual effort is failing. That's the takeaway.
So we need a structured system, something bigger than just one homeowner trying their best. Where did the sources point for that kind of solution?
Well, since the problem is collective and it needs measurable proof of mitigation, the solution has to be structured and collective too. And the sources strongly point towards the Firewise USA program.
Okay, Firewise USA, that's run by the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA.
That's the one. And it provides exactly that kind of structured, community-wide framework we're talking about. Its real strength, though, lies in its official backing, meaning it's supported by CL Fire's own Community Wildfire Preparedness and Mitigation Division. That positions it as, an integral part of California's actual state wildfire strategy. It's not some random program, it's plugged in. And it's non-partisan.
Non-partisan is key here.
Absolutely. And it's important to understand this is really about mandatory collaboration. It's not like, oh, show up if you feel like it. To get recognized under Firewise USA, you need explicit, documented teamwork.
Teamwork between who?
Between residents, the local fire departments, and a whole bunch of other key stakeholders. We're talking state forestry agencies, elected officials, emergency managers, even property management companies need to be involved.
Okay, but hang on. Isn't asking neighbors to coordinate work, spend money, isn't that kind of the definition of politics? How does Firewise actually manage to stay nonpartisan in practice?
That's a fair question. It works because the requirements themselves are purely checklist-driven. They're technical. They focus only on risk reduction actions, not ideology. Things like vegetation management standards, home hardening recommendations. It's about the what, not the why in a political sense. The structure itself provides that rigor.
Makes sense.
Plus, there are defined site boundaries for recognition anywhere from 8 to 2,500 single-family homes. That gives it scale. And you can even have multiple Firewise sites within a bigger HOA or community, but the focus is always on documented mitigation work.
Right, that documentation. That's what the insurers care about, the proof. So what are the very first concrete steps a neighborhood has to take to get this Firewise framework rolling?
Okay, first step. The community needs to establish a board or a committee. This has to include residents, but also those key stakeholders we mentioned, like the local fire department liaison.
Got it. Then what?
Then comes the first major hurdle, the assessment. They absolutely must consult with their state forestry agency or the local fire department to conduct a community-wide wildfire risk assessment.
And what are they looking for in that assessment?
The focus is on general conditions, things like the state of homes, roofing materials, defensible space, access roads, and crucially, the surrounding ignition zones. The vegetation and topography right around the community.
That sounds like a pretty big undertaking. Is it just like a one-time report they file away somewhere?
Oh, not at all. And this is absolutely critical to the Firewise model's success and credibility. That initial wildfire risk assessment, it has to be formally revisited and updated at least every 5 years.
Every 5 years. Okay.
Yeah. It ensures the community is constantly adapting. They have to account for new conditions, changes in vegetation growth, maybe new construction. It's an ongoing mandatory cycle of due diligence. You have to maintain it to keep that Firewise designation.
Okay. So you know the risk because you've done the assessment. Now you need a plan, right? An attack plan. And that plan needs that documented civic investment we talked about. This is where it gets really interesting. How do those risk assessment documents turn into actual verifiable action?
Right. So after that initial risk assessment is done, the committee's next big job is to draft an action plan. And this isn't just like a list of vague ideas. No, it has to specifically prioritize the risk reduction projects identified in the assessment. It needs to suggest concrete activities for homeowners, like the extensive tree trimming or roof inspections we mentioned earlier that the sources highlighted. And it also has to include educational efforts for the residents.
And if that plan's static?
Nope, just like the assessment, this action plan isn't a one and done. It must be revisited and updated at least every 3 years. Keeps it relevant, keeps the momentum going.
Okay, but like we said before, insurers, CL Fire.
Yeah.
They need more than just paperwork, right? They need tangible proof that the community is actually doing the work, that they're committed long term. That's how you maintain the Firewise recognition.
Exactly. And this is the detail that really brings us back full circle to our mosquito analogy. It's the proof everyone is dumping out the water.
How do they prove it?
It's called the annual investment requirement. And honestly, it's a pretty brilliant way to quantify that civic duty we talked about.
Quantify it how?
To keep their Firewise recognition, communities have to annually document volunteer hours and specific activities that contribute directly to wildfire risk reduction. There's a clear target.
What's the target?
The goal is an annual investment of 1 volunteer hour per dwelling unit within the recognized site.
1 hour per home. So let's say a Firewise site has 100 homes inside its boundary.
Then that community needs to complete and document 100 hours of qualifying mitigation work every single year.
Wow.
Or they can document the monetary equivalent, if they hire contractors for some work or use grant funds. It's based on the independent sector's value for volunteer time.
So that's the community literally proving they are all diligently working on the problem, not just 1 or 2 people.
Precisely. That quantifiable metric, that documented investment, that's the kind of proof insurers are starting to demand. It shows the neighborhood is actively, measurably reducing its overall exposure. They're not just talking about it, they're doing it.
And that documentation translates directly into reduced insurance risk.
Right.
It makes the whole community a better bet for insurers.
Exactly. It makes the community a better risk portfolio, which is crucial for maintaining access to affordable insurance and, ideally, keeping everyone insurable.
Okay, that is the synergy we need. This whole problem, it really does require the city, the county, the state, all teaming up with the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And the good news, based on our sources, is that these local resources, like from Wildfire and city government, they are often organized and basically waiting to serve neighborhoods that are ready to step up and take these certified checklist actions in an organized collective way.
The time for this kind of active civic engagement is definitely now. This Firewise mechanism, this collaborative model, it's the pathway forward. It ensures everyone has a better shot at getting coverage and critically minimizing losses if, heaven forbid, a fire does occur.
And the sources show us this isn't just theory. There's a clear, non-partisan model for how this action actually happens on the ground.
Right. We can look at local examples to see the template for success nationally or at least statewide. In the case we started with, Lake Elsinore, Tuscany Hills. The source material pointed to a really specific, organized step taken by local leadership.
What did they do?
They actually organized a public meeting. They brought together key players, Lake Elsinore City Council member Tim Sheridan and CL Fire Battalion Chief Ryan Lubin.
Okay, so for you, the listener, the takeaway isn't necessarily about attending that specific meeting in Lake Elsinore back then.
No, not the specific meeting itself, but observe the partnership. The entire point of their event, according to the sources, was for neighbors to learn directly how the city, the county, and the state Lake Elsinore, Riverside County, CL Fire are actively teaming up.
Teaming up so that
all the neighborhoods can understand and complete the necessary checklists. This collaborative approach, that's the model you need to replicate in your own community.
That is the essential insight here. Your job, if you're concerned about this, and frankly, who isn't in many parts of California and the West, your job is to find your local council member, your local CL Fire or equivalent fire official.
And ask them point blank, how can we partner to execute the Firewise checklist requirements right here in our neighborhood?
Get that conversation started.
The urgent plea here is really simple. Please, do not wait. Don't wait until your insurance company finds some technicality, like that single missed payment, to cancel your policy or refuse to renew it. Start this nonpartisan civic action now.
So when we step back, what does this all really mean? It feels like the ability to insure your home, something we always thought of as a private financial decision between you and your insurer.
Right.
It's increasingly tied not just to your own property line, your own actions, but to the collective quantifiable efforts of your entire community.
It's a fundamental shift. And it leads to some interesting thoughts. I mean, if Firewise USA requires neighbors to guarantee, say, 100 hours of documented mitigation work every single year, what other traditionally private services or insurances might we see tied to civic engagement metrics in the near future? Think about flood insurance in flood-prone areas, maybe even things like basic road maintenance in some communities.
That's a really provocative question.
Yeah.
Where does collective responsibility start and end?
It definitely raises some important questions about the future of community living and shared risk.
And for those listening who want to dive deeper into the specifics, the actual actions that make up those volunteer hours and checklists.
Definitely explore the concepts of defensible space. That's huge. Wildfire has tons of resources on that.
And also look into the role of local land use planning programs, which our sources also mentioned as being part of the bigger picture solution.
The bottom line seems to be the checklist is there, the government resources are often available. The real variable now is the community's commitment to organized, documented action. That seems to be the key to securing your home's insurability going forward.